up, everybody? Mike Camarado again, Learning God Ministries. Happy Sunday again. Hope you had a great week. So far, a crazy year. I know that for a fact. Things were closed. Restaurants were closed. Parks are closed. Everything's closed due to this pandemic. And I hope in years from now when this video is playing that it's over. One thing that has closed are churches. Churches have closed because that's the gathering. People can't gather together in the pandemic and spread the pandemic throughout the churches. So if you're going to close the restaurants and the parks and the movie theaters, you got to close the churches. Let's talk about church. First of all, what is church? Church, I know, let's get to the drawing board first. Let's draw a church. And what does a church look like? Now you're going to see this drawing live, so you're going to know I'm drawing this. There we go. What is a church? All right, let's see. Uh-oh. I think this is going to be a church. I'm not really certain. Oh. Look at that. And there's the door. And this looks like a steeple. Okay. Let me write it down because nobody's going to know what that is. Okay, that's a church. It's a bad church. The perspective is all off. But what is our perspective on what church is? Maybe it has some stained glass windows. Ooh, beautiful stained glass. It has the altar on the top. It's got some pews where people sit in. It's got that beautiful steeple. Look at that steeple. I'm going to write steeple because it rhymes with something that the church is. The steeple is not the church. The stained glass is not the church. This building is not the church. So what is the church? It's not the steeple. It's the people. That's an O. The people make the church. The people that know God and know Jesus make the church. So now when I hear that the pandemic closed the churches, the pandemic had nothing to do with the church. What the pandemic did was it closed this building that took church people into one location. So the church is you. It's you. It's you. It's you. It's you. It's me. We're the knowers of God, and we're the knowers of Jesus. We are the church. Now, it's nice to get together and gather in one location, but the church doesn't have to look like this either. The church could be a gymnasium. The church could be a tent. It doesn't matter because the church is us. It's within us. We are all part of Christ's body and soul. All of us together in one building, it almost makes it feel even amped up to some great height. And that's an awesome height to feel. But the church is in your heart. Do you know years, let's go with like 1900s. I want to talk about what's happened to the church today. In the 1900s, the church was the center of life. Right around the turn of the century. Not the 2000th century. I'm talking 100 years ago. 120 years ago. The church was everything to the community, the people, the pastor. Everyone revolved around the church. If it was Sunday, that entire day was for the Lord. The Amish still do that. That was the center of life. Today, in 2020, we're out here. What happened to this? The church is no longer the center of life. The church, and I don't mean the building, I mean us. What happened to us? Why are people less and less going to these buildings to be the church? What happened all these years? 120 years later, we do whatever we want. We don't care anymore. Nothing is attracting us to the church. And if you do go to a church, it's generally filled with an older crowd. Generally. I don't mean that there are no Christ worshipers at a younger age. Of course there are. But the majority of people that are going to churches and worshiping on a Sunday are the older generation. Older than me. When I went in, I think I might have been one of the youngest people in the churches that I recently went to. Now, there are younger, but the majority, they're sticking with that old as it dwindled away to here. I get so afraid that here we are in this day and age, that what is going to happen to the church? Not the building. What's going to happen to the people that make up the church of Christ? Is it going to die? It might. I went into youth ministry, which is what I specialize in, for that reason alone. I want to show the youth a different way to learn about God. If the church is still doing the same thing as it always has since the 1900s, 1800s, if we're still doing the same thing, the church isn't conforming with the times. And I'm talking to the pastors, the ministers, the priests, the whatever. Whoever is leading that church or that service, the church must change. Everything on TV right now is in color. Do we agree? Not only is it in color, it's in high definition. And it looks fantastic. In fact, there's hardly going to be anything come on TV now that doesn't have any of those fillers, because it had to change. TV had to change with the times to get viewers to stay with their channel. Because if they didn't change and they kept the old black and white, wire hanger antenna look on their TV, no one's tuning in today. Makes sense? That's the same thing with the church. Same thing with music. Music in general. I talked about music a few weeks back. Music, too, had to change. We're still not dancing Bobby Sockin, and dancing to the 50s music. Although people still listen to it, but it doesn't sell anymore. Because music had to change. If we don't change with our culture, nothing will stick with the change. People will fly away because that's what happens. People aren't interested anymore in the old ways. Doesn't mean that they were right. They were right for the time. But now these old ways don't work. You gotta do something different. Now, what am I doing differently as a youth minister? First of all, I haven't been able to get to preach it live because of the pandemic. So what do? I make these YouTube videos. which I love, by the way. But my thing is to teach people regular. Like a regular, how would they do it today? How would someone teach somebody anything today? If I did it like at the old Fogarty's and I was 1900s, nobody would listen to me. Because no one cares. I would bore people to death. And I still might bore people to death with the way I do it. But that's fine. I want to be as natural, and natural only means natural for today. Because they were doing it naturally then in the 1900s. But that natural doesn't work with today's natural. So that's what you gotta change with the times. Something has to be different. I know when you were a little kid and you went to church, you went because your parents took you there, and you heard the pastor and the minister, and they were talking, they were doing their thing. 50, 60 years later, here you are with your own church, and you're still giving the messages in the way that your pastor gave it 50, 60 years ago. You're not going to get any new blood. You got to keep it fresh. It has to change. Now, the Bible doesn't change. It's the way we deliver the Bible's messages to people. That has to change. It's all about marketing. That's sad to say, but how do you sell God? I have to sell this church. I got to sell this congregation. I don't want these pews to be empty every week. And they're dwindling. They're getting worse and worse. How do I sell God? How do I market God? You got to be with today's market. You can't create the market. You got to conform with the market. Make sense? I think so. All right, that's it. Learning God Ministries. Whatever you do it with God. Mike Camarado, out. Take care.